March 7th through March 19th, March Madness for the Texans when it comes to the offensive line as we go through the tough decisions that they made. We start on March 7th, 2025. The Texans released Shaq Mason. Said it last year, say it again. Shaq Mason was not in shape last year. Said that at the start of the season. Said it on SNL, said it here. The guy was not in good shape. He just was not. And he performed at a very terrible level. The craziest thing about this decision, while you do support this decision, it was on the aftermath of, I think, one of DeMeco Ryans' worst decisions as a head coach, where the Texans' offensive line was playing meh, but not god-awful. Shaq Mason was hurt, and they decided to start Shaq Mason against the Kansas City Chiefs, and he put on one of the worst performances that we've ever seen a Texans offensive lineman put on in a big game. And this is an organization, this is a franchise known for poor offensive line performances. He was as bad as it got. And DeMeco Ryans, for whatever reason, he decided that he was going to start Shaq Mason, and Shaq Mason might as well have been handing out flyers to the entire Chiefs defensive line as they went to CJ Stroud, almost like a church greeter or something like that. So they decided to release him. Shouldn't have been a surprising thing, but when you decide to start him, you do wonder. But the impact of this decision was, thank goodness DeMeco Ryans did this, but why the hell did he start in the first place? So that was on March 7th. Then we go 3 days later. This one was massive. This was the most controversial decision that they made when it goes to reshaping the offensive line. On March 10th, 2025, the Texans trade Laremy Tunsil. And we had a special live edition of SNL on this day. The Texans trade Laremy Tunsil to the Washington Commanders. A complete culture shift on the offensive line, whether you think they needed it or not. They trade Laremy Tunsil, and suddenly the most popular national topic or opinion is, well, the worst offensive line in the league just got worse because they traded their best guy. Now, the counter for the Texans, and you listen to DeMeco Ryans, you listen to Nick Caserio, you listen to what they say they like from their offensive linemen. It's the opposite of what Laremy Tunsil is. And it's the opposite of what they've preached. Iron sharpens iron is what they've always said. Laremy Tunsil is a guy who's elite at what he does. He's on his own island. He marches to the beat of his own drum, but he's not necessarily making 2 through 5 better. He's going to make more money than 99.9% of offensive linemen in the league. He's probably going to be more healthy after football than 99.9% of the offensive linemen in the league. He also is a guy who, when it comes to making the other guys better, you got to wonder that, like, Laremy Tunsil can move a certain way. 2 through 5 can't move that way. We've seen it with Titus Howard. Titus Howard idolized Laremy Tunsil. He idolized him, tried to be Laremy Tunsil. And you saw Titus Howard with Aaron Wilson. If you go look at the quote, I thought it was fascinating. And I had a few guys text me about this. He's saying that he's trying to get his body right and get in shape and refocus. Why were you not doing that before? Would be my question. I think it's very simple. And I think that's why we saw this trade. And that's hopefully the impact. Does that assure that Titus Howard's going to be good at right guard or whatever he ends up playing? Don't know. But when Titus Howard comes out and says, I'm trying to get my body right. By the way, Laremy Tunsil's body is always right. Pause. But he takes care of himself. But it doesn't necessarily bleed down to the other guys. Not everyone can move like Laremy Tunsil. And you hope that this is maybe not addition by subtraction, because I don't think you're going to have a left tackle as good as Laremy Tunsil, but you hope the addition goes to where the offensive line is working as a team. It's a cohesive unit. It's another one of the code phrases that DeMeco Ryans and Nick Caserio are using when talking about the offensive line. So Laremy Tunsil traded. You already see him not at activities with Washington. Who knows how that goes? Look, not everyone can move like that. He did, and more power to him. The very next day, a guy that we probably didn't think was going to be on the team. This actually ended up being a really good move for the Texans, given some of the stuff that has happened recently in the offseason. Kenyon Green traded for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And when you see what happened with Jimmy Ward, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, you had a guy who performed at a higher level than Jimmy Ward last year, a little bit younger, been able to stay on the field longer. So you make that move. Kenyon Green, this is another interesting display by D'Amico Ryans, because last year D'Amico Ryans said that Kenyon Green was playing well when it was clear that he wasn't. He got benched, then he got put back in the lineup against the Jets. You got to wonder, was he going to get benched? Because he was performing like Shaq Mason did against the Chiefs later on down the line, but he ended up getting hurt, I think, when C.J. Stroud fell on him after he got beat. So you trade Kenyon Green, you get C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I don't look at this as like some sort of bold decision. This was just a very necessary thing that they did, and they did a good job of getting a good player for a guy that, quite frankly, I'm rooting for Kenyon Green. Everything that he can control, he controls. Maybe he just needs to change the scenery, but he was not a good player for the Texans at all. Probably the worst draft pick that Nick Caserio has ever made, and he's done pretty well in that area. This is the one clear 100% miss in the first round that Caserio had, and you kind of move on from that. So you move on from 3 opening day starters from last season on the offensive line, although I don't think too many of us anticipated Shaq Mason and Kenyon Green starting. March Madness continues.